Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing another tier list, this time for the Invincible comic book series, though I will say, if there is a character that has already been introduced in the animated series, I'm probably going to coalesce the vision of both those characters in the animated series and in the comic, and sort of just rank it based off an average across mediums, if that makes sense. Also, with that being said, fair warning, there will be some spoilers, probably some major ones even, for the Invincible comic book series. Now, I'm probably not going to go into too much detail on certain things, but spoilers are going to pop up, so if you do want to avoid those, maybe this isn't the video for you, or maybe you want to choose a different approach to the video, maybe you want to hop around certain areas of it. Also, I should say, because there was some confusion last time I did a tier list video for the X-Men, which was probably my fault. This is just based off personal preferences for these characters, and I'm basing that off like characterization, visual aspects, and also just how integral they are to the plot, how cool they are, and what they do in the story. This is not based off anything like power ranking or resilience or durability, any of that stuff. But with that out of the way, let's get into our character ranking for... Also, I should say, there's a bunch of characters here who are like really inconsequential to the story and irrelevant, so I'm kind of going to skip around and just pick out some of the key characters. First off, we have Alan the Alien, who does play a major role in the Viltrumite War. He's a cool character, super strong, obviously, kind of a poster boy of being a chill, laid-back dude, and I appreciate that. He's fun, he's funny, he's got some good action. I'm gonna give him A tier. Alan the Alien for A tier. Monster Girl. Monster Girl is one of my favorite characters in the entire series. I particularly like when she goes to the Flaxen dimension with Robot and they end up stuck there for like generations. And they become the leaders, and there's drama that goes on there, there's spice that goes on there. When they come back, you know, they're not on speaking terms exactly because we'll get into it later probably, because I'm sure the character's on this list. Anyway, yeah, good stuff, S tier character, really fond of her, enjoy her very much. Amber from the comic book series, here, just in case you're concerned why it doesn't look like Zazie Beetz' depiction of the character. Man, no disrespect to Amber, I do think she's got some cool stuff, and I do like her a lot more in the animated series, but also through virtue of being a human character who's just like orbiting the superhero theatrics of this really heightened world, she falls flat and becomes a little boring, so I'm gonna throw her in D tier. Joining her in D tier will be, what is this character's name, like Andressa? I'm not confusing her with Anissa, I promise. I think it's something similar. This is the insect alien race. This is the wife of Nolan, Omni-Man, that he takes after leaving Earth. Mother of Oliver, so that actually doesn't give her any points in my book either. I'm not too big an Oliver fan, so we'll get into that later, I'm sure, too. But I'll put her in D tier. Angstrom Levy, one of the greatest villains of the series. You gotta kind of feel for him to some degree too, because he's got these immensely powerful multiversal powers, and he wants to do right by taking out Invincible, but unfortunately he's going after the wrong Invincible. He's going after the one Invincible who has not turned evil, and again, though, his mind is sort of fractured on itself through his own doing also, though, so you feel for him, you don't. It's a complex situation, but he's an awesome character who causes a pretty fun ripple effect through the series, originates the Invincible War, which is coming up this season of the show. Yeah, S tier for sure. Here we go, here's Anissa. Now, I gotta be honest, guys, I know a lot of people do like Anissa and think she's a cool character. I'm not really into her, and that's even aside from like the issue with her way down the line with Mark and stealing the bodily autonomy and the aftermath of all that and whatnot. Just like all of that aside, even I think she's kind of like a mediocre character as far as the Viltrumites go, so I'm gonna give her C tier for that. Sorry, maybe you can make an argument in the comments for why and this is cooler, but yeah. See, look, this is what I'm talking about with a bunch of inconsequential characters. I'm not going to skip this one because I funny enough, recognize who she is. It is the woman who tutors Oliver as he's growing. Like, so again, like, what can I say about this character that is like much more than that? There's not much to it. D tier. Now I'm gonna move on from doing a bunch of these characters that I think are inconsequential. I will though, this man, I'm forgetting his name, but he designs all the outfits for the characters. I'll throw him on the list. I'm gonna give him a D tier, but he gets on the list just for making all the character outfits and for having that little moment with Debbie, I guess, where they're like about to be a thing almost, but it doesn't really pan out, which is fine. It shouldn't have anyway. Moving on to Battle Beast. Battle Beast is an awesome character. Probably gonna give Battle Beast S tier. You have to respect a character who is immensely powerful, but is not using that power to further their own goals. They're really just in it for the game. Battle Beast fights for the thrill of the fight. He just wants the blood on his fur. He has an awesome spoiler, battle with Thrag later in the comic series. And again, spoiler, I love when we see Thrag again after defeating Battle Beast. He literally skins him and then wears him, which is just crazy and a cool moment. Although Battle Beast did nerf himself a bit in that fight because to make it even, he disembowels himself. So awesome fight that's probably coming up, I guess, season 5 or 6 or even later in the animated series, but we'll get it one day and it'll be sick as hell. Okay, also worth maybe putting on the list, I guess, is Adam Eve. This is her mom, but I'm gonna just say it's both her parents. I'm gonna lump those two things together. Look, they're terrible. They're really bad parents. It's amazing that Adam Eve turned out the way that she did, and they're bad across both mediums, so putting them in the D tier. Moving on, let's go to Bulletproof, who, as you can see here, later on in the series will don the Invincible suit, not for any grand reason. Really just, I think while Invincible is out in space fighting the Viltrumite War, which is a big thing, I guess, Bulletproof just wears it because Adam, Eve, and Invincible have their little side business where he's like a hero for hire, so he fills in for Invincible with that. And also he has that moment in the series where I think he kills his parents or one of his parents, and then he puts their body in a car and throws the car off a cliff to make it look like a car accident. So that's pretty crazy and wild, a thing that he does that's kind of just happens. We'll throw him in C tier. Cecil, I'm putting Cecil in S tier. He is a phenomenal character. A lot of what Invincible is about is like flipping superhero tropes and dynamics on their head and exploring utilitarianism and rehabilitation in a world like this. And he is one of the gateway characters to doing that. He is firm. He's got a steady hand. He's got many a beef with Mark and other characters, but he holds it down. He holds it down, and he's a pretty awesome, phenomenal character. Big spoiler coming up. I was so disappointed when he is pretty methodically taken out there later on in the series. It's a big bummer. Had to happen at some point, though. You did see it coming. And no backup for Cecil. Once Cecil's out of the game, he is out of the game. Next up, we have, I think this is the first Darkwing. I'm putting him D tier. Okay, look, I'll throw the other Guardian in D tier too, the Aquaman fill-in. They're just like, they're non-starters, really. Darkwing 2, I'll put him in C tier. He elevates a little bit by actually having powers and not just getting splattered against the floor. He kind of reminds me of Cloak from Cloak and Dagger because he's got his little shadow world that he can go into. But yeah, just still a C tier, nothing special. Speaking of special in the letter C, though, this is brought to you by Conquest, the oldest Viltrumite in the galaxy. Conquest is the man that you send into a planet where you want action taken. You want to get something done, you send in Conquest. Oh, the planet's not acquiescing to the Viltrumite way? Send in Conquest, he'll take care of it. And we get an awesome fight with Conquest and Mark that is coming up in this season. But the best thing about that is that phenomenal fight is round 1. There's going to be a round 2 to that fight later on as well. Conquest, S tier, absolutely. Okay, next up, Debbie Grayson. Mother of Mark Grayson, our Invincible, wife of Omni-Man. Guys, A tier character and a slept on character, because if you really think about it, she holds some responsibility for saving Earth as we know it in this series, because yes, during that fight with Invincible and Omni-Man, Invincible is the one who extracts the emotion and the depth from Omni-Man, but the person who implanted all that empathy and that morality and taught Omni-Man about Earth and humanity at large, that was Debbie, my friends, and we have to extend that to Mark too. Hey, I'm sure in many of those other universes where Mark goes evil, maybe Debbie didn't play as major a role in parenting him, or maybe she just wasn't around in general, and I think without Debbie, your chance of an evil Mark drastically increases. So again, she saved the world in my eyes. Next up, we have Dinosaurus, who, boom, another character I'm throwing in the S tier. I recently just did like a 30-minute analysis on this character's trajectory through the comic series. Phenomenal character, also an avenue to explore extreme utilitarianism, again, something that pops up often in the books. Kind of a flip on the Hulk trope too. This character does, as they get bigger and stronger, they actually get more intelligent too. And I like the little team up that Mark has with Dinosaurus for a bit here in the books, where he thinks he can keep Dinosaurus on a leash and use his mind and keep things in check and not have Dinosaurus just go crazy, but doesn't quite work out. Awesome. Brutal gore with Dinosaurus coming up too. I'm excited to see the moment where Dinosaurus just chomps on Thrag's head, but Thrag is so strong that it just shatters all of Dinosaurus' teeth and they go splintering everywhere. Real good gory stuff coming up, guys. Next up, we have D.A. Sinclair, who's a character I don't care too much about, but because they create the Reaniman and they create the Invincible corpse Reaniman after the Invincible War, which is something that'll be coming up too. So the Reaniman are going to get an upgrade with Invincible corpses. Because of that, and the way that folds into the plot, and it being like somewhat pretty major, I'll give him like a high C. Okay, let's see. Doc Seismic. I don't really care about Doc Seismic. I think he's got a funny moment in the comic series early on. Is this the one who's Invincible and Adam Eve's teacher who calls them out and is like, you know, I know who you guys are. You're really bad with your secret identities. Like, Mark, you're wearing a mask, but it's still very clearly you. Adam Eve, you're not even wearing a mask. I know it's you. Pretty funny, but still. C tier. Donald. Maybe controversial, guys, but I'm also going to put Donald in C tier. Like, yes, he has a lot of utility and purpose within the plot, but I don't know, just a character that I can't really get behind caring about. Like, I've got Cecil that I care about for all my Pentagon type stuff, you know? So, I don't know. Cecil over Donald and Donald way below. Moving on, let's see. Some of these images I can't even tell who they are, so I'm going to have to just make sort of guesses. Like, this is Robot, but I know there's a Robot further on that's a little better. Let's just do Robot now. Okay, Robot. Robot, S tier. Robot is actually my favorite Invincible character. I think he's such a fascinating character, and huge spoilers incoming, but his pivot from superhero to supervillain is really fun, and I want to make an analysis video on it. Another character who just goes down the route of extreme utilitarianism, not even factoring in anything like rehabilitation or any aspect like that. And is super successful in it because he is so intelligent, has so many contingency plans set up for things. Robot, for a little bit, takes control of Earth basically in its entirety. And again, continuing the spoilers, so if you don't want to hear this, skip forward. He is the one who ultimately takes out Cecil, as well as many other critical characters too. So pretty intense stuff coming up. That is much later in the series though, but it'll be exciting to watch how they play that out in the animated show. Okay, the iguana person, Iguanador, whatever their name is, part of the Lizard League, just gonna throw them in D tier. Lizard League, look, they're all gonna get D tier for me. You want to put some respect in their name, but you also don't. You want to put respect because they did have a little bit of a serious moment there with the Rexplode, Shrinking Ray, and Duplicate, but also they're the Lizard League. Like, they're not super serious, except for that one moment. But they're kind of jokes aside from that. And I guess that moment's to show, like, aha, you shouldn't underestimate any of the the characters, even the jokey ones, but still. Lizard League, iguana character, come on. Invincible, aka Mark Grayson, the man himself. Look, this is a top tier show, so a lot of characters are going to be in the S tier. Invincible, I obviously have to put him in the S tier. He is our titular character. He is our first successful half Viltrumite, half human, and he's a great guy. Really reminds me of Peter Parker in a more mature setting. Not saying Peter Parker is immature, just like the world of Invincible is more mature, and a lot of the thematic ongoings are explored from a more mature angle. And also Invincible has the benefit of also like playing with superhero tropes and flipping them on their head, so I don't want to get too into that on it, but Mark's just a great guy, cool character, super strong, and I love when he gets into his fights, and I love when he gets that Viltrumite rage. Super awesome. Moving on, who is this supposed to be? I can't really tell. We're gonna call it the Mauler twins though, even though it's only showing one blue guy on the cover here versus Invincible. Mauler twins though, for all intents and purposes, S tier. Also really good villains. Probably a bit of a hot topic right now considering the recent episode that just came out with Oliver annihilating the Mauler twins. But fret not, spoiler incoming. Pretty sure they've got a bunch more clones out there that we'll see later on. So the Mauler twins are down but not out. But I really like these characters, giving them S tier because I think it's really fun also to have these two like brute type characters, similar to Dinosaurus, where like they're really strong, really big, but also super intelligent. And the Mauler twins can certainly pose a threat and have before for many a character. Moving on, Duplicate. A character getting a bit of hate right now, rightfully so in the show. A little nuanced, but let's see. I don't know, I like Duplicate, but she can be annoying sometimes. Her brother's cool too. The way that factors in is interesting, and I'm still gonna give her like a high C tier probably. Don't take too much stock in how I'm ordering these, because I'm kind of just willy-nilly doing it, but when I do want something higher up, I'm trying to put it a little higher up. Moving on. Let's see. King Lizard, again. D tier, probably one of the lamer ones of the Lizard League even. Komodo Kid, whatever his name is. The Komodo Dragon Kid. He's not a kid. Kid's probably not in it. Also D tier, remember the Lizard League. Forgetting which like Viltrumite general this is, but I am gonna give him some credit here. I'm gonna put him in the C tier, and here's the reason why. He's one of the ones that ends up on planet Earth. Once they make their little peace agreement for the time being with the Viltrumite Empire, and there's a few Viltrumites who are on Earth just like with the task of breeding with humans to make more Viltrumites. But he's one of the ones who's like, nah, I just want to stick with one partner. I don't want to like go inseminate a bunch of people. He's a wife guy. And we gotta respect that. We gotta love that. He's also there to showcase that like, hey, it wasn't just like unique to Nolan, Omni-Man, that he developed empathy and morality and love for humans on Earth. It's like a characteristic that, humans have, and it will just pull out of these Viltrumites. So that's kind of nice too. So yeah, C tier for that. Let's see. Luca, this other Viltrumite dude. Again, not too much of a character that's important to the plot, but as some like cool fight moments, I guess. High D tier, I guess. Yeah. Kid Invincible. Now, if you're not a comic fan, you're probably like, what the hell? Who is Kid Invincible? Is that Omni-Man? No, that's not Omni-Man. This is actually Mark's son with Anissa, which happens through the loss of his bodily autonomy. And for that reason, also for the reason that this character is in the tail end of the book, like the very last volume, I believe, and there's not too much that goes on with him, and he's sort of just there. I'm actually going to give him, like, D tier, honestly. Sorry, Kid Invincible. Moving on, let's see. Man, I'm also forgetting the name of this character, but this is the one that I said I'd talk about later in regards to Monster Girl and the child that she has while she is in the Flaxen world. She actually, spoiler, cheats on Robot, who she's later in a relationship with during all that time they spent in the Flaxen world. cheats on Robot with a woman, so she cheats on Robot with a woman while she's in her monster format, which is a male, so she impregnates another female character, and isn't this complicated, and has this character as the child, and that is what causes sort of the main rift between Robot and Monster Girl when they come back to Earth. Aside from the spice and drama of it, kind of a boring character, so C tier. Machine Head, done better and more prominently in the show. I like that they've got the audio aspect that you don't have in a comic, so they can do the auto-tune thing, but I'll do C tier. Oh, I didn't even grab Black Samson up here. Black Samson I'm also going to probably put in C tier. I feel like he's more so one of those characters that just exists to paint out the corners of the Invincible universe, but doesn't have a much greater role in it than that. So yeah, I'll throw him in C tier. Man, this character looks really familiar too, but like from this tiny little thumbnail, I can't really tell who it is. A few of these do even, so, but again, I'm skipping like sort of inconsequential characters here, like Kid Thor, and this like magma guy. Although I am gonna do the Tendril Tyrant when he shows up, if that's what his name is, the Tendril Tyrant, I think. The Tyrant of Tendrils. Anyway, we'll get to him. Well, let's see if I can find him now. Here he is. Tendril Tyrant, Tyrant of Tendrils. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if you agree with me on this, but I think this character, whenever I see him, I think of Danny Phantom, the animated Nickelodeon show, because he reminds me of the Box Ghost. I don't know if it's just like his design looks similar or there's something to it, but he reminds me of the Box Ghost, and he's a interesting guy. This is a cool like take on a symbiotic relationship with a parasite. Still gonna give him C tier though, probably kind of a lower class villain. I like what they did with him and this magma lava guy, which okay, I guess I'll put them together here. Oops. Put them together here. I like what they did with the little silent intro to one of the latest episodes of season 3 of Invincible. That was pretty cool. I like them fleshing that out, that relationship a little bit too. Let's see, what else do we get? Wish I could tell who this is, but their head's cut off. If you know this, leave it in the comments. If you're a hardcore enough Invincible fan, you can tell just by the body. Let me know. Oh, here is Duplicate's brother, Tran, I believe. Maybe not. I might be mixing that up with an X-Men character. Anyway, let's see. I'm gonna throw him in D tier. I mean, if I'm putting Duplicate in C tier, obviously he's got to be in D tier. Yeah, that's really it for him. Let's go now. Omni-Man, interesting. I really like Omni-Man as a character. I wouldn't put him quite S tier. I do think we get a lot of him in the story, and there's a lot of good stuff with him, but the good stuff with him is usually like his relationships as they relate to other people and not like spotlighted on himself, if that makes sense. Whereas like Mark could carry a solo issue kind of. I don't know if Omni-Man could. There's probably a solo issue that Omni-Man carries, so I'm probably gonna eat my words, but I don't know if he could carry one for as long, or yeah, with like the longevity that Mark could, or the interest that Mark could. Awesome character though. I love the revelation of like, oh my god, I really messed up back on Earth. I did things horribly wrong, and I like his struggle away from his Viltrumite culture and like the negative aspects of that. Really cool stuff. So I'll put him in A tier. Oliver, I'm kind of an Oliver hater, not gonna lie. I appreciate the fact that this character is sort of interjected there to show us, like, hey, this could be a worse version of Mark if he sort of went down the Viltrumite culture path and sort of believed things like Omni-Man had tried to teach. Issue is, I feel like we get multiversal Invincibles, so we see other Invincibles who go down the evil path, so we get it sort of one for one anyway. And then Oliver doesn't do too much other than be kind of annoying. Yeah, so I'll give him C tier for that, I guess. I'll give him a higher C tier because he's part of the Grayson fam, but yeah, other than that, he gets some good beatings, that's for sure. That's for sure. Let's see. The Reanimen in general, I think, are pretty cool. I'll give him C tier just because I threw D.A. Sinclair in C tier and he made them. Yeah, they're like a good little contingency plan that Cecil creates to deal with Mark and other extenuating threats. Then the Invincible Omni-Man or the Invincible Reaniman are really cool later on, so that'll be popping up probably season 4. We'll see that. So yeah, I'm excited for that. Let's see, who else do we have here that's worth actually throwing on this list? Rexplode. Now, I almost want to give him S tier, but I'm gonna give him A tier. And maybe if he was in spoiler, maybe he was in the series for longer. Because if you read the comics, you know Rexplode is about to make a heroic and noble sacrifice here during the Invincible War. He's going to be responsible for taking out one of the Invincibles, but unfortunately taking himself out too. And he does not come back. Not walking that one off like the bullet shot to the head. So I'm going to throw him an A tier. I think Jason Mazzuccas, who voices him, has done a phenomenal job with the character. Really elevated it past the comic character, who is good regardless. So yeah, A tier, almost S tier. Okay, William. I'm also going to throw William in D tier, just like, again, through virtue of being a normal human character in this world that, again, I said it before, but I'll say it again, just orbits the superhero antics. It, like, makes it hard to like, really get into their storylines and their character trajectory and follow along with it, as there's so much other insane stuff happening. So, yeah, I'll throw him in D tier. Sorry, human characters. Really only Debbie and Cecil rising above that, so good for them. Next up, we have Russ Livingston, who is a sequin-infected human astronaut who will come back into play in the animated series if you're like, hey, what happened with all that stuff? Not a character that's like really cool or interesting, but attached to a really, really important and plot-defining moment, I would say, character-defining for Mark, where this is the first person he kills that is just a pure innocent, really, and he kills them for the greater good. A utilitarian argument being made here. Yeah, and this is like right before he joins up with like Dinosaurus and starts trending down that path too. So it's big for Mark. So because of that, I'm gonna put him high C tier. Okay, let's see. Shapesmith. Don't really care about, don't really like, but Ben Schwartz voices this character in the show, and I really like Ben Schwartz, so C tier. Adam Eve, come on, probably one of the strongest characters in Invincible, if not the strongest character in Invincible. We also learned, spoiler, in like the last issue of the series, that she herself is kind of invincible, or I guess more accurately, kind of immortal, because as we see, when it looks like she's reaching the end of her human lifespan, her atoms like re-energize or whatever, I guess, and just revert back to her younger self. So she'll live on in perpetuity, and she's got really awesome fights herself. She takes a few beatings in this series. Spoiler, gets her leg ripped off at that one point. Is it Conquest that rips her leg off, or is it Robot that rips her leg off? They both give her a pretty brutal beating. I think Conquest maybe almost rips her in half, or is that Oliver that he almost rips in half? I think it's Oliver, actually. Anyway, I'm excited for that fight. Oh man, next up we have Tech Jacket, who is a really cool character in the show, or sorry, in the comics. I kind of feel like he's going to be written out of the show. I don't know why I think that, but I don't know. Part of me is just like, he's not going to show up in the show. But he's this human dude with this extraterrestrial Iron Man-like suit. He's pretty strong for what it's worth too, and he joins in the efforts against the Viltrumites. I'll give him B tier. Yeah, he'll be our first B tier character. I think he basically straddles this line pretty well. Oh, Tara. Spoiler for the last name here. I'm warning you, Tara Grayson. This is Mark's daughter with Adam Eve. So she's a cool character. I like her design and the homage to the original Invincible outfit, but I will say she also shows up in like the last volume of the book, which is like pretty far forward in the future. So she doesn't do too much. Like, she's got a little bit of plot line there, but I'm sure I'd like her a lot more if I continued to like see her and spend time with her. But for the time being, I'm gonna throw her maybe as like a high C tier. I wonder if they'll ever do anything more with the Invincible series and following up. Probably not. It doesn't make much sense. Plus, they're so far away from like Earth and earthly issues at that point. So, yeah, no big deal. she can live in C tier as a character who has more potential, but it will never be delivered. Okay, next up we have Powerplex, who is this villain that eventually does turn, and in efforts and aligning with rehabilitation, he turns out to be a hero, like helping save others, but he still has major beef with Invincible. He blames Invincible for the death of his wife and son, I think. Sort of a domino effect fallout through the Omni-Man versus Invincible fight. So it's cool to get like a little bit of follow-up on that. I'm going to throw him C tier, though. Yeah, C tier I think is fair for that character. We're gonna see him voiced by Aaron Paul this season in the show though, so that'll be cool. Okay, guys, remember when Omni-Man was like telling Mark as he was being sent to the Viltrumite prison, "Read my books, read my books." Well, that's because of characters like Space Racer, who Omni-Man alludes to, I guess, or like builds out the blueprint for him existing in his books that he wrote, and that's because Space Racer has a weapon that can take out Viltrumites, and it is this gun that only Space Racer can hold that shoots through, I believe, anything. Other than that, though, not really a character that I care at all about. Does join in the Viltrumite war, but yeah, C tier. Thaddeus, or Thaddeus, however it's pronounced. Let's go, my boy. The original Viltrumite defector, leader of the Coalition of Planets, and as I just said, yes, he is the first Viltrumite to turn against them and try for a better way. And while he does sort of take a slight utilitarian, pragmatic approach sometimes, he does seem overall like a pretty good guy who wants to do things right. So I'll give him B tier. We'll do B tier for Thaddeus. He's cool. I like him. I like him as a wise, older Viltrumite. Too bad he never had like a face-off with Conquest. I feel like they're in a sense foils to each other. I believe this is Shrinkray from the comic series, who is notably less interesting and less fleshed out than the character from the animated series. See, I would put him in D tier, but I would put the animated series character, who I do like a lot, and I like what they're building with Rexplode, the relationship. I like that version a lot. I'd put that in B tier. So maybe I need to put him in C tier to sort of merge those two visions. I feel like the animated character, though, does a lot of heavy lifting for him. So I'm going to put him as like a low B tier. But that's more so for the animated Shrinkray. Okay. Immortal. Look, guys. I know we're dissing on Immortal. I know we're making fun of him for dying so often. And hey, spoilers. He's going to die a lot more. You're going to see him die a lot more over the course of the Invincible series. But he's cool. He's awesome. I mean, look, and he stopped slavery in the United States when he was Abraham Lincoln. And that's just fun. That's a fun aspect of the character, that he used to be a U.S. president. He's lived through all this trauma and pain, and he has to endure with it. He's a bit of a curmudgeon, but that's kind of fun too. An Omni-Man hater to the end. I'm gonna give him A tier. I like Immortal a lot. He's a cool guy. He's strong. He's like not quite on par with Viltrumite strength, but I think what they said is like, aside from Viltrumites, in that category, he fits like the strongest. Okay, moving on to General Thrag, aka Viltrumite Freddie Mercury. Let's see. This is a cool character, kind of an annoying guy. Like, I wouldn't want to get a drink with him. Although he probably wouldn't want to get a drink with me. He'd probably take my head and bash it into the counter, and my brains would sprinkle over the seats like snowfall. Okay, I don't know what I'm... Anyway, he's a good addition to the series, though. He is the leader of the Viltrumite Empire. When we meet him, has an awesome fight with Battle Beast later on. Awesome fight with Omni-Man and Mark. Or is it just Omni-Man? Who does he fight in the sun? Is that Mark or Omni-Man? I'm trying to remember now. I think it's maybe... oh, well, it's been a long time. But he's pretty awesome. I'm going to give him A tier. Okay, next up we have Thola, whatever her name was. The Viltrumite with the little knife on her, connected to her braid, which, by the way, what is that made out of? Because that in and of itself has to be like a really, really strong material. for it to be slicing and dicing other Viltrumites like that. Like, I know she's got some force behind it, but how much inertia can you actually build up by swinging your hair around, right? I don't know. I'll give her C tier. She's kind of a non-starter. Rockman, man who has a rock shell. I forget his name. But also, he's kind of a nothing character too. Once he takes over like the criminal empire, you don't really see him that much after that. I'm gonna give him D tier. Okay, guys, I think that's gonna be the list that I'm locking in here right now. I'm taking a last look right now to see if there's anything I really want to switch around. No, I don't really think so, though. I think as far as my opinion on the comic series and the characters go, this is pretty accurate. I am slightly considering elevating Rexplode and Immortal to S tier because they're pretty fun. I would say more so Rexplode I'm considering than Immortal, but I think I'm gonna keep them. I think I'm gonna keep them there. But yeah, Invincible is just a really awesome comic book series, and definitely worth reading if you haven't read it before. But if you wanted to stick with the animated series too, they're doing a really good job of building on the series and fleshing things out in a way that they couldn't have before. And I really enjoy it. And obviously, there's a lot of S tier and high ranked characters here because the series is awesome. And as you can see, like most of our main characters are in the extremely high tier rankings. So I think that says a lot for the series and the show. And if you disagree with any of my opinions here, I'd love to hear what you think in the comments below. I'd also love to hear in general what you think about Invincible and the show adaptation and the comic, because since it is a complete comic, if you enjoyed it in its entirety or if you thought it fell flat anywhere. I didn't really. I think maybe the ending is a little weak in comparison to the rest of the story, but the rest of the story is so heightened and awesome that was kind of always going to be the case. And it's much better than, for example, Kirkman's Walking Dead ending, which, I won't get into here, but yeah. So, hope you guys like this video. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And there's many more videos like this on my channel. There's tier list videos, there's analysis videos, there is like just comic book overviews. So, join the community, and you all have a great rest of your day.